What is up, guys? I'm Ryan, and in this video we're going to go over the basics of derivatives. Okay, so first you need to know the words derivative, and differentiation. These two words basically mean the same thing. It's just this is the noun and this is the verb, okay? So what does derivative or differentiation mean? It's like basically finding the instantaneous slope, okay? Instantaneous slope or the rate of change. Okay? Now, still, what does this mean? In slope or rate of change, what does instantaneous mean? Well, let's use a very simple example. In grade 7, probably, you learned about straight line, right? Now, this is going to be, let's say, y is equals to 2x, right? And how do you know what is the slope? The slope is obviously 2. How do you know it's 2? Because you just use your eyes to see it, right? You see this is number 2, therefore it must be, slope is must be 2. Because linear lines have the form y equals mx plus c, right? So in this case, just my c is 0, because it's basically plus 0, right? So I'd leave it, so it's not there. And then I can use my eyes to see that m is 2, right? And since it's a straight line, the slope is consistently 2, meaning the slope here is 2, slope here is 2, slope here is 2. So nothing complicated about that. We don't really need to use derivatives or differentiation to find the slope here. Now, the question is, what if we have a curve, for example, quadratic, like this? Now, let's look at the slope. Well, what is slope here? Can you tell me? Well, we don't know, right? Because the slope here, let's say the slope here at this point, right here at this point, this is the slope, right? This is obviously negative slope. Yes? Now, what about this point right here? The slope here is a positive slope. So you can see that the slope is different throughout the entire function, right? For example, here, negative slope. Here at the vertex, the slope is 0. The slope is 0 because the slope is flat, right? If we draw a tangent, meaning a straight line that touches the curve once, this only touches here, and it is flat. So the slope here is 0. Slope here is positive, okay? Hope you guys understand what that means. So let's pretend this is y equals 2x squared plus 2x squared plus 3x minus, let's say, 3. Okay? Let's just say something like that. So how do we find the derivative of this? Okay? Well, that is for the next video. But you just need to know that the idea of derivative and differentiation is basically finding the instantaneous slope, or finding the slope of a function, of a curve, okay? Function or a curve, okay? Now, let's go over some notation, okay? So let's just say our original function is fx. Our original function is this, fx is equals to x squared, let's just say. If we differentiate, okay? Differentiate, so the verb differentiate, the verb differentiate. We differentiating this thing, okay? Differentiating this thing. We d this, okay? So usually how I say it is I just say d it because I'm too lazy. I don't say differentiate, I just say d. So if we d this, what do we get? We d this, we get 2x, okay? How do you d stuff? Well, that's for our next video. But to give you guys an idea, to differentiate something, differentiate. The IB has two methods, okay? Method number 1, this is number 1, is by first principles. And this one, we have to use limits, okay? So what you learned in the previous video, okay? Number 2 is by formula book. And this one we'll also go over in the next videos, okay? So the next video will probably be this one, and then the next video, and then the video after that will be the formulas, okay? So you guys can look at the other, the next few videos. You guys want to learn how to differentiate stuff. And the notation for differentiation is, so as I set up here, right, we d this thing, we get this, right? But how do you write it as like a mathematical formula? How do you translate it to math, right? So we use this, d dx. X squared is equals to 2x, okay? So what does this mean? This here means the verb d, okay? So if I say d this function, you just have to add d dx, okay? So this is the verb, okay? This is the action, basically. That's how I think about it. This, you always write it, and then this is your function. This is the function. Let me put it in a different color. This is the function, okay? This is the function. And then this is your answer, obviously. That I don't need to lay anything, right? So this is just answer, right? So another example, let's say my original function is this. Fx is equals to, let's just make it more complicated. Let's say e to the power of x plus x squared, right? Then if I were to d this, what's the notation? The notation is d dx. I want to d f of x, right? I want to d f. I want to d this. So I write d dx. D dx means the verb d, right? So I d this, and then how do I write it as d dx? Fx is just e to the power of x plus x squared, right? And then you guys don't know how to actually d it yet. That will be again covered in the next video. But I'm just showing you the notation. So if we d this, it's going to be e to the power of x plus 2x. Okay. So we know that if we d this, we get this. Okay. So that is the notation of differentiation. Now, apart from using this as the notation for derivatives, there's also another notation, which is called the like f prime notation, okay, like this. So what does it mean is, for example, let's just use the same example up here. So if I say this, my original function is x squared, right? If I want to d it, we know from up here, it's obviously 2x, right? D this equals 2x, right? D x squared equals 2x, okay? But instead of writing like this up here, I can also write it as f prime. So as in, I can write that the f prime of x is equal to 2x. Okay? That means if I d this, I get this. So this little prime, so this little dash means d as well. Okay? So there's two ways to write it. You can either write it like this, or you can write it like this. Okay? So you need to know the two different notations that the IB will use. And that's basically it for this lesson, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, you can put it down in the comments below. There are no practice questions for this video because it's pretty much just explanations, and I'll see you in the next video. Good luck. Bye bye.